We are live, celebrating Dr. Patricia Boulogne's amazing relaunch of her book. Why are you sick, fat, and tired? And Dr. Pat, talk to us about why did you bring this book to the world in the first place? Because you published the first time in 2019, and here it is back again. You've made some updates and. Um, why did you decide to add these extra little goodies to this book? And because it was beautiful from the start. So what happened?
Well, I'm a overachiever for starters. So, but the reason why I originally wrote this book is because I wanted people to have an opportunity to tune into their own health and get clarity on their health and wellness so that they could get, that snapshot, because a lot of times we don't feel good and we don't realize that we don't feel good. We just think it's aging, or it's just like, oh, it's the food I ate last night. I ate too much. It feels like Thanksgiving dinner every day, and you're fatigued and you're overwhelmed and you just don't have the energy, or as a friend of mine would say, chutzpah, to be motivated during the day. And you almost sometimes feel it's so drained. So to walk around Boston a lot. And I just had some really interesting observations that, that really coalesced in the second edition. And I wanted to share that moment when I had that aha moment. This has got to change. I have to stop working, not working, and go back in and work, because I just saw so many people who were not well. And so I looked for a venue to do that with, so it could be kind of a do-it-yourself assessment, so you know where you're at a given time, and I just started writing. I had no clue what I was doing. I never wrote a book before, and but someone told me I was very organized, so those skills came through. Again, but when I got to the second book, from feedback that I got from people who took who were looking at the first book and were my clients, they said, I just want to, this would be helpful if you did this, or if you commented on this. And so what I did in the second edition is I told that story, and, in color on the back panel. And I looked at, what that story was about, walking in Boston and constantly observing people not being well. For 10 years before that, I lived on Cape Cod, and you had sea breezes and open air spaces, and you didn't have pollution. You didn't have a lot of chemicals and a lot of things that were taking away from your health on Cape Cod. But when I moved up there, I just noticed all these things. It was like overload of sensory, and so I had, conversations with people, and and would ask them questions. I popped one person in a car one day, in an area where there was a park, because he just looked like he was going to die to me, and I said, "You need to go to the hospital." And had a conversation with him. He had that greasy sweat, and I said, I think you need to go to the hospital. You can't wait for an ambulance to come get you." And so a cab was going by, hailed it, put him in. I said, "Take him to Mass General Emergency," and banged and closed the door. And and off he went. And I ran into him a month later, and he just said, "God, you changed my life. You saved my life." And I just went, "Who are you?" Because I totally didn't remember the incident at the time. So it was just, so a lot of things I brought to the second book, how to qualify yourself. Is this book for you? And ask specific questions, that if you answered yes to those, you basically, the book's for you. And it really services everybody. And so that's why, I went back to BAD to do that. And, and I had this dream of the cover that's on this one, since I published the first book. And I just think that it helps people identify. I mean, they can identify with it better, to saying like, "Oh my God, my mother has that," or, I feel that sometimes. I have acid reflux. Is that a problem?
Right.
Yeah, it is. It's not supposed to be there. So that, to answer your question, on the long side of that, that's how the first, second edition ended up coming about.
That's pretty amazing, because the questionnaires go really deep into each kind of function of the body. Do the different things that, like the endocrine system and You know, for you have one special segment just for men, one special segment that are just for women, plus all the common body things that happen. And it really makes you stop and think and pay, closer attention to who you are, what you're doing, and why you and how you are feeling, which is really the key
Oh,
that true, how do you feel, truly feel?
well, I had somebody originally who said to me, who I just said, "Can you read this for me and tell me if it makes sense?" and so he took the questionnaire and he called me up. He goes, before I was diagnosed with cancer, it was not. I didn't have any. I would have said I would have aced that questionnaire that I have, been diagnosed at and been treated, and I'm in remission, or I'm not positive right now. And he said, I have everything. And he said, where do I sign up? Because a lot of times all of them are like, submerged and they don't, surface until we have some major illness or, sometimes even the flu can bring some of those symptoms and make the sign and symptom actually, manifest, and you start having more significant things that make you alarmed, which makes you want to go to the doctors.
Right, right. And really kind of get to the bottom. I think so many of us will take um, for granted our good health and our stamina, and all of us, a lot of us are very busy um, in our work, and all of a sudden it just kind of creeps up on you, and you're wondering, well, what happened to me? Why is this happening? And it's really time to make sure that what we're doing is paying close attention to our health.
Well, one thing that is really that is sound like out of church, but I always say you need your health for everything. And when people have those signs and symptoms, a lot of times people are in denial. They mother their father, they ask their girlfriend, their boyfriend. Do you ever lately I've been having like stomach, like bloating, use that for example, and they're going, oh, I had that when I was your age. It goes away. And then you go down the road and it doesn't. And something else that doesn't go down the road is that you have, when you're like looking at those things that happen to you in your life, who wants to wait till you're in crisis? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me when there are easy, like common, not highly costly, solutions to a body by just taking some documentation, looking at what our lifestyle is, not shopping inside the middle aisles of a grocery store, and choosing to buy organic foods. I always tell a story about being in a grocery store last year up in Maryland, and I had organic broccoli, and I had the regular broccoli. I was looking at it, and the woman came by and said to me, what are you thinking about? And I said, well, I'm thinking about that, these two pieces of broccoli remind me of dating. She said, and she laughed. She said, what do you mean? I said, you have the conventional broccoli that's, GMO. And I go, that's the guy who takes you out parties, and ends up, you're going out dancing and you end up staying late and you got to get up in the morning and you got to go to work. And he's sleeping, and I said, and then the other one, I goes, the other broccoli is water walks and feed you, make sure that you're covered at night, make sure you have the nice pillow and he sleeps on the hard one, always opens the door for you. It's like, that kind of broccoli that's nurturing and feeds your soul and feeds your body, and so she said, well, which one's that? And I said, I had it in my right hand. I said, this one here, she reached over and she could and have a great day. Who are you anyway? I said, I'm Dr. Pat. But it was funny, and it's part of my askew sense of humor, where, I sometimes when I take a slant and I think about a solution for somebody, it's not always the most conventional solution, but it gets you there safer, faster, easier, and better. And then you can have the results that you want, so you can move on with your life and you can enjoy those special moments with people who matter.
So, Dr. Pat, when somebody picks up a copy of this book and they fill out the questionnaire, what's the process of working with you? What do you do when somebody comes to you and has filled out these questionnaires?
Well, first off, I thank them for being so interested in their health and wanting to do something. That's a gift because it is not always the case. So what I do is, and what I offer is the ability to go over the scores, because there's questions in each body system, like the liver and the endocrine and the cardiovascular and the immune system and male female kind of thing, and they all have scores. They ask very in-depth questions. I've been told by people that my doctors never asked me those questions before, but it tells you.
Most of the doctors pat you on the head and say you're fine.
Well, they just say, like, oh yeah, that's with your age. A doctor said it to me one time, and the hair in the back of my neck, I felt it stand up. But at any rate, to answer that question is when somebody fills it out, what I have them do is I have them download the questionnaire sheet, the chart, and I have them fill it in. And you can do it on some PDFs where you can fill in the number and then you highlight that area. So if it's 12, you would highlight 0 to 12. Where does 12 land on that specific organ system? Will tell you it's a low, moderate, or a high priority. You don't want high priorities. You want them to be in the low side, and you want them to be on the low normal side. Because when things start creeping up on those normals, for me, I think, okay, we've got something going on here. We need to pay special attention to it. And my premise is that, I test first, guess never. So I don't want to guess. I don't want to have, to someone's health is that asset is so precious, to people. And I honor that. So what I do is okay, so here's our first test. This is like, what's going on that we have to pay attention to. Then you funnel your vision into that particular area in relationship to the rest of the chart. And then when you do that with the rest of the chart, you can see what your biggest strengths and your weaknesses are. And you can say, like, okay, so why is that happening? Because that's the why of the book, right? Why is it happening? And then you can target your interests, and you can do so many things to help somebody get past that. You can find out, if there's an emotional component, if there's a physical component that's being masked by the emotional component. So it deals really with, when I'm speaking with somebody, the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and social aspect of that, of where they're at in their life then, where they came from, and where they want to go. It's all about them. It's their goals. So it's like, I'm just the person. I'm your taxi cab driver. I'm taking you to the right direction, so that you can get the information that you need, so you can make better decisions about your health, and with knowledge, with the powers knowledge principles.
So often, and I see it in my own overall well-being, is that if I'm grieving over something, or if I'm sad about something, or if I'm feeling a little depressed about something, nothing works right. And so, there's that whole package that is all intertwined. And you mentioned, it's also the emotional. It's every aspect of who we are that all kind of interconnects. And if you have that underlying depression, it's time just to pay attention to why that's happening.
Well, we know that the gut and the brain are connected, and the brain is the master controller of the whole body. It is the most important organ in the body.
Right.
So when, looking at, I teach 5 pillars of health, and my 5 pillars of health are, proper diet, nutrition, which is one thing for me, proper exercise, proper sleep, positive mental attitude, proper mindset, and proper posture, which is biomechanics and structure function. Mm-hmm. So the most important thing when somebody's approaching their health and they've got something going on, or they need to change, or they want to find out, like, where am I anyway, in this process of life, then what happens is you got to go in, and you first have to, like, really address the mindset and the positive mental attitude. That's essential to be successful. And then when you mix that wellness initiatives of the diet, the exercise, and the sleep, then you can take that component and you'll be 1,000 times more successful at, staying on that diet, losing the weight that you want to lose, getting enough rest, organizing or time managing your day better, and managing stress. Because if you have the right nutrition in you, you can have, you don't have the same responses to stress as you did before. I
Right.
know when I had my practice and I was in active practice, people used to ask me all the time, "How do you do it?" Because I would get there at 7:45 and I would leave about 7 o'clock at night. And sometimes I would go all day long. They go, "God, Dr. Pat, how do you do it?" And I said, "I eat well. I eat very, very clean, and I
Mhm.
think good thoughts. I do good deeds, and I stay focused. Every person who comes in to see me gets 150% of my attention." And that's, I didn't want to be bothered. My mother called, tell her I'll call her back, and so I wanted to just because I wanted to give people what I felt that I would want if I was in the same place. So I had, built up a lot of trust in the area when I lived on Cape Cod, and then I moved to Boston, and then I started thinking about like, how do I take all that knowledge that I had and use it so I can help more people? Because my goal is to, and the mission is to really help people have better health and have it so that ACE is in their back pocket, not somebody else's.
Awesome. So for those that are listening or will be listening to this video, you'll be able to, we have it in the link, and the right on the screen, you can copy the link to go to get a copy of this book. But also, Dr. Pat, you know, today you do your business quite different. You don't have an active practice. So how do you work with clients?
Well, I work with them virtually, and so what I do is I use Zoom, I use media like this, but not live. um, and, and I help people, like identify, have a conversation with them. If they're around locally for me, I will meet them. It's easy to go find, some place to go meet, or, I'll even go to their house. And sometimes I do inventory in someone's house where I'll clean out their pantry for them because
Oh,
they do not want to give up food. And, and I talk to people about like other ways that we can work together. So I have programs that are, some of it is do it yourself. And I have programs that are one-to-one. But my favorite thing to do with people is to mentor and coach. You rarely ever get a coach that can mentor or a mentor that can coach. But I combine those two services together because I lead by example. If I can't eat it, chew it, or be it, I don't tell somebody else to do it. And it's always been my MO. And I might have a very excuse sense of humor, but when I talk about someone's health, I am so serious. And it's I want them. I can see their end of their funnel of where they got to go.
mhm.
And if they tell me where they want to go, then I can draw the picture for them. So show them how they're going to get there, and then the steps that they have to take.
Beautiful.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense, and that's quite interesting, because one of the things that I've noticed, and not all doctors are this way. So many times, for a long time, I refused to even go to a doctor because I felt like they just patted me on the head and said, "You're fine." When I said, "Well, why am I here?" Because I don't feel very good, whatever was going on at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that one-on-one would be truly amazing, to know that they were really, truly interested and
Mm-hmm.
not going to try and pump a bunch of chemicals into your body,
Right. Well, I use a really good lines of supplementation that I recommend for people to take. And a lot of times, when I have a client, or if I have a bunch of them at the same time doing the same thing, I do it with them. So it's just like, so I don't just say, hey, you needed to go out and, based upon your, their metabolic questionnaire score and what your gut score is, you've got to do this, you have to do a detox, and here you go. It's just like, you have a lot of connection with me. And, and a lot of times I'll go, you know what, I haven't done one of those in a while. I'll do it with you. And
Oh,
so,
wow.
so we're both going through like the same thing at the same time. So it's easier, I can always answer any question because the products I've used for 20 years. and, and I've had very, very good results with people in their outcomes and how they moved on to the next thing. So, um, you know, that is so, so, so important to, be able to parlay, I walk the walk and I talk the talk. So, that's always one of the questions I want to ask a coach who is like, so do you walk the walk and talk the talk? A lot of times people tell you, to go do stuff and they don't have any personal experience doing it themselves.
Correct.
And,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I do.
Well, this is a real day of celebration because you've worked hard. You've been a leader in this field for quite some time now, and it's a celebration because it's a huge accomplishment to bring a book to the world in a powerful way. And you've already become in the Kindle, you're a bestseller, and the paperback book. In fact, you did remarkably well in many different categories. In the paperback book, that's where we're focusing over the next few days on making sure this book gets seen, gets picked up, gets read, and people learn about functions of their body that maybe things that they never knew prior to this. So you're really serving the world in a beautiful way, and you do so with love and compassion and heart, and that's the biggest thing. Is that's what we need the most, truly, is that understanding of how all the body functions work together and what we can do about it. And you're quite the leader in that way, and thank you
Thank,
for that.
thank you very
So,
much.
so Pat,
Do you know we have a question?
we do. I
We
don't
have
see
a
the. Oh,
question.
good. I didn't see that
We have a
question.
question, and I can answer that very quickly and
Okay.
very concisely. So Orlando says, how important is proper hydration to sustaining optimized wellness? It's essential. And I will tell you why in 1 second. The second part of the question says, what are your thoughts on electrolyte water versus alkaline water in terms of what is healthier source for proper hydration?
Good question.
So that is a good question. So to answer that in a group, you need hydration for every organ system. Those 5 pillars I talked about, you need it for every one of those to work properly. And you need it for your brain to detoxify. You need it for your joints. You need it for digestion. You need it to help you sleep. It also needed to stop, it's very essential a lot of times because I did a lot of sports medicine. I'm a certified sports physician. I used to see a lot of injuries in sports from dehydration. So it's really important to do that. So how you get that amount of hydration that you need is that you need, like if you're 150 pounds, you're going to need 75 ounces of water. If you don't like to drink water, then what you can do is you can put some lemon juice in it, to flavor it up and drink it out of the straw so you're not, swallowing air at the same time, which sometimes gives people upset stomach, and that's one of the reasons why they don't like water very much. And on the electrolyte water versus the alkalinity water, I have never personally, tested pH, but you can buy pH strips, for that. So I'm going to go out today and I'm going to actually buy electrolyte water and test it against alkaline water. Alkaline water keeps your pH in your body up. And like 7 is on a pH scale is from, 15 to 0. And you want it, 7 is the middle, or 14, and 7 is the middle. And so 7 pH, your body, that's where your body should be at. A lot of times people in the morning, if you test your pH in the morning, you're at 5 point something or 5.6. And when I've tested things like, sorry, Poland Springs, when I tested your water, when it used to be in my office, I used to get something, it was down really low. Now, acid waters could be good for digestion purposes, but it's not good for overall hydration. And so you want the water to be somewhere around really close to the 7 pH. And when your body's closer to, there's some studies that suggest when people's pH of their urine or their saliva is 7 point something 2, right, given around that, that's when you're the most healthiest pH for your body. That's what your ideal is. And so on the electrolyte, I don't believe that you're going to see the pH change. I just think there's extra electrolytes in there. But I can make a post on that very quickly, after I go explore that. When I have to go out and do an errand this morning. And so I'll pick a bottle of that up, and I have pH paper. But I recommend everyone to get pH paper so then you know what, and do it for like 21 days and see what the pattern is. And then talk to me because I can tell you what that pattern means and how it relates to the questions that you answer. Because I have clients that I have them do that on a regular basis. So I hope that
was a very good question because there's so many, the regular drinking water that you get out of the faucet, how good is that for us versus buying bottled water, and what kind of water is it that we really need?
Yeah, well, you definitely don't want to buy any of the flats of water that have ever sitting in front of a grocery store or a gas station, because those things or on the tarmac of an airport, because those water have been exposed to high temperatures from the sun, and the plastics leach into those waters. So when you drink that water, you're drinking plastic, and plastics cause huge problems for your health. They're accumulative effects that happen down the line.
Very cool. And so, do you have a type of water that you would recommend?
Well, my favorite water is reverse osmosis, and some of those machines you can get for a cheaper amount of money. I mean, when people install those within their house, that's a better water to use. Just because, and also in trying to, they do sell waters that are in glass containers, like Box, spelled B as in Victor, OXX. Those are in glass containers. And Pana used to make water that was in also in a glass container. And if I ever see that, I always buy that, for my water, especially when I'm traveling in my car and I'm driving another 1,000 miles someplace.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a road warrior.
So in the reverse osmosis, what do you suggest on what kind of system to buy if somebody is kind of limited in funds? If anyone's interested in a particular system, there's a system. I don't remember the name of it now. I don't make any money off of it because I put that discount towards whoever's buying it. But it's around $300. It goes on your kitchen countertop. And if anybody's interested, they can reach out to me, via messaging here or in my email, and just ask me about the reverse osmosis countertop version. And we can put my email in the chat, for anybody to get that. And that would just be Dr. Pat.
Ask Dr. Pat at healthteamnetwork.com.
And is doctor spelled out?
No. Just ask Dr. Pat, how I always sign off on things. Ask Dr. Pat.
At Health
Team
Network.
.com. It's also healthteamnetwork.com is my website too.
All right. I'm going to show that. Very good. Ask Dr. Pat at healthteamnetwork.com. Got it right?
Yep, you got it right.
All
perfect.
Right. So we're going to be having another interview this afternoon at 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern. And we'll go into a little more depth on the charts that she uses and the questions that she asks that really help us to really think much more seriously about our health. Without our health, what is life? It's truly the way it is. Yeah. So Pat, we celebrate this wonderful time with you and seeing this book.
Thank you. I'm elated. I've gone from, aspiring to do this to inspired to do this, and, being excited, and I am elated. I can't thank everybody who helped support me and, buy the ebook, buy the paper book, the paperback version. It's just like, I'm really elated, and I really want to, have a really big goal today to, hit bestseller on the paperback, because that's the version I always tell people to buy, because in hand is in face, and if you're in face, you can't get rid of it. You have to pay attention.
Right. There is the Kindle version, but you can't really fill out the forms on there. You have to kind of follow a link and go get the forms and print them off yourself. Mm-hmm. The paperback, there's something special about it, because there's never anything as amazing as being able to have that book in your hands and really enjoy the whole process of answering the questions and very, very cool.
Well, the thing about the paperback version also is that when you go to write a note in the side, and you go back, and if you do it I always do stuff in color, I go through something one time in pencil, then I make it blue, then I make it red, and then I highlight, something like that. So when I do that, I always, when I'm looking at that, part where was that? There was a word that I want to go back to this. I can go back and look for the color I'm looking for, as opposed to, some like a pencil or something like that. It's just the way that I learned how to study, when I went back to school to become a chiropractor and also an acupuncturist.
Beautiful.
So I'm licensed in both.
So watch for our next interview at 1:30 Pacific, 4:30 Eastern, and we will be back with more special goodies about Dr. Pat's book. And if you have not yet picked up a copy, we put the link right back up here, and get book at Dr. Patricia Boulogne. If you don't copy this link and get it up there that way, then you can also go to Amazon and just put Patricia Boulogne in the chat, or why are you sick, fat, and tired, and it will come up.
It's there.
Very good. All right. Very
All right.
good. Well, I will just be so happy to talk with you later today, and we'll watch the stats. And thank you, Allison, also for tuning in. You've left some very valuable comments too. Thank you, Dr. Pat.
All right. See you.
All righty. Thank
See you
you.
at 4:30 Eastern Standard.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.